much. Joining me now, I have Lieutenant Chris Olivares with the Texas Department of Public Safety. Lieutenant, it's always good to see you. To Mills's point, President Trump signed a slew of these border orders last night. At my count, more than 10. How quickly does that change things on the ground for you and other border leaders?
Good morning, Mark. Great to be with you. Of course, I think we saw that yesterday with some of those executive orders, especially with the cancellation of the CBP One app, how effective it was that same day. So I do foresee that we are going to see changes just immediately. We're seeing it right now on the border right now, of course, with some of these executive orders. But, going back to some of these executive orders designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and also the mass deportations. I think that in itself obviously is going to it's going to take some time as this process goes on, but we are seeing some of that immediate change just based off that CBP One app, which was allowing over 900,000 plus migrants to enter the United States inadmissible. The fact that they were the outgoing administration was using mass parole to actually facilitate the CBP One app and the release of migrants into the country. That in itself is going to be a huge factor in decreasing the flow of migration at the border.
And Lieutenant, let me just, to your point, list off a couple more of these orders from the laundry list that we saw signed last night, declaring a national emergency at the border, stopping catch and release, reinstating remain in Mexico, resuming border wall construction, designating cartels as global terrorists. What more do you want to see here in the coming days, sir?
Mark, I think that in itself is really something that we were looking for from the very beginning. I know Governor Abbott had provided a letter, back in 2022 to the outgoing president about what changes we needed on the border. And that was one of them, was actually designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, infrastructure, and the fact that we need to actually go back and follow the rule of law, federal law, that would help decrease the flow of migration. Of course, we didn't see that in the last 4 years, but now with some of these executive orders, I think it's going to help us in Texas and, of course, law enforcement across the border, slow that flow of migration and focus on the needs of the country, and that is, border security, public safety threats, national security threats. I think it's going to give us more time now to actually do that. And the fact that now we have an ally with the federal government working together, it's really going to be more beneficial to us as, state law enforcement to actually focus more on border security and actually have the help from the federal government.
What more have you been told about these mass deportations, Lieutenant? Now that Trump is back in office, this was one of his biggest campaign promises. Have you been given any more guidance as to when that's going to start or what that's going to look like on the ground?
We have not, Marky. At least our role as a state police agency in Texas, we have not received any guidance as of yet from the governor or from our agency how we're going to play a role in that. But I think, if anything, our focus is to focus on public safety threats. We want to focus on criminals that have committed crimes, that are currently in our Texas jails, that are here illegally, that have committed crimes. We want to focus on those individuals and have them removed. Something that we've been doing for years, nothing really different for what we've been operating in Texas. But I think now really gives us more leverage, gives us more authority now working with the federal government to focus more on those public safety threats. So it still remains to be seen exactly what role we're going to play when it comes to mass deportations, but I'm sure we'll see some guidance in the coming days or coming weeks.
Lastly, before I let you go, Lieutenant, the Laken-Riley Act was passed by the Senate last night. It now heads to the House, where it will likely pass as well, then to the president's desk. Of course, she was the Georgia nursing student who was heinously murdered at the hands of an illegal migrant. And I think a lot of Americans are saying, okay, if this is put in place, what protections are in it for me and my family? How will this protect Americans everywhere?
Well, I think it focuses more on those, criminal migrants that have committed crimes, maybe not violent crimes, but the fact that they've committed misdemeanor crimes, thefts, that would actually lead to a much larger result of committing more violent crimes. And we're able to actually hold those individuals accountable when they commit some of these minor crimes and get them removed. That would serve to be beneficial to anyone in the country right now. We know that the killer of Laken-Riley had committed a minor act of committed a crime that was not really was considered a misdemeanor, and then led to a violent criminal felony, which actually took the life of Laken-Riley. So I think that in itself will help preserve some of that and help protect American people. But also it goes back to the policies that are in place right now on top of the Laken-Riley Act. I think it actually gives some type of reassurance to the Laken-Riley family and also those in the country right now that we actually will have some accountability for those that commit crimes, even if they're not violent crimes, that are in the country illegally.
I know Americans everywhere are watching, and it's a new day down at the border with a new sheriff in town. Lieutenant Chris Olivares, thank you so much, as always. Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, Marky.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.